Okay, this is Christina. Now, currently, there are 4 mistakes that I see happening with her hair, and I'm gonna tell you today not just what they are, but more importantly, how she can modify them so she can get a more youthful look. Yes, and we are going to start that right now. Okay, if you are a veteran of this series or my channel, then you know how this usually goes. Typically, I would read you the email that accompanied this particular submission, and then I would break down exactly what mistakes I'm seeing based kind of on that email. Now, this particular video is a very different situation. This is a situation where there is no email. So very quickly, while I just explain to the new viewers exactly what's happening here, if you are a veteran, why don't you go ahead and comment below and let me know if you can notice the mistakes that I am seeing. All right, so if you are new to the channel, first of all, let me just say welcome. Thanks for hanging out. My name is Justin Hickox. I've been doing hair since 1995, which basically is just a long time and makes me feel old. This is a series where subscribers from this channel actually send in their photos asking me the question, what mistakes am I currently making with my hair? And more importantly, how can I get a more youthful look? So that's what we do. I promise I'm not as mean as just throwing somebody on blast in the middle of a video. I'm really not that horrible of a person. So with that said, now let's dive into the mistakes. Okay, I feel like I should just stop real quickly. Can we just address the elephant in the room? Or should I say the beard in the room? Yes, if you know me, you know this is different. So I figured I'd give it a shot, and I'm a little nervous to ask you what you think. So if you love it, comment below. Let me know that you love it. And on the other hand, if you love it, comment below. Let me know that you love it. Anyway, mistake number 1. Okay, now the first mistake I'm seeing is that the back is just a little bit too long right here. The concern with this is that this back being long really kind of draws the face down and draws the eye back to the focus point of down back at the nape. So it brings the eye down as well. Now, if you've followed any of my videos, I've told you before, and you know this, that the profile, what happens with the profile, is every bit, if not more important, than what we see straight on. Many times in the mirror, we look at ourselves straight ahead and we say, we look good. But it is also important to recognize that most of the time, people are looking at us from some sort of version of a profile. So understanding what's happening from that situation, I would say is pretty important too. Okay, mistake number 2 is that it's a little bit uneven in the front, with one side being just a little bit longer than the other. And more importantly though, it's actually just a little bit too long on the front in general. Now, this isn't a terrible look for Christina, but it's closing her off a little bit by having that length come into her face so much. You may say, well, she could just tuck it behind her ears, which is true, but we could also take a bit of that length away and give her the option of styling it back off her face a bit more or down and in front of the ears without closing her off so much. So having that little bit of extra length in the front is really kind of taking away some of her options. Okay, mistake number 3 is that the style is just a little bit too flat, and kind of piggybacking off of mistake number 2, it's also just a little bit too styled into her face. Now, I have to back this up and just say that that is a bit of an assumption. I'm assuming that the photo she sent me is how she always wears her hair, and it very well might not be, but I'm going to go with this assumption because it helps to kind of illustrate some points that may help you. Having the shape this flat adds a bit of rectangularness to her face shape and pulls the shape of her face actually down as well. Adding a bit more volume in the right areas would go a long way to opening her face up and accentuating her cheekbones more. Okay, now mistake number 4 deals with the color, and that is that it's just a little bit too cool for her kind of warmer skin tone. And if you notice in her photo, she's wearing gold jewelry. Again, this is a little bit of an assumption, but I have to assume that this is more of the standard for her, that she's more apt to wear gold than silver. Our skin tone plays a huge role in what color tone is going to look best on us. And one simple way to understand if you're on the cooler side in your skin tone or on the warmer side in your skin tone can be determined by what jewelry you feel the most comfortable in. More often than not, and this is not always, but as a very general rule of thumb, if you have a tendency to wear gold jewelry, then you probably find that you're a little bit on the warmer skin tone, and you're gonna be better suited for warmer base tones in color. But in her specific situation, I do feel like she would be benefited by warming that tone up a little bit, and that point I think is backed a little bit by the fact that she's wearing gold jewelry. Now, with all that said, I do want to back up and just say, at the end of the day, these whole rules are just kind of a rule of thumb. So what's most important is that you do whatever makes you feel the best. If you wear more silver jewelry, but you feel much more vibrant and alive and overall just better and more confident in warmer color, then you need to wear warmer color. But if you feel like something's a little bit off and you can't quite pick why your color doesn't feel as good as you might want it to feel, then that may be where the root of the problem is. So check that out. With all of that kind of broken down for you, why don't we dive into the suggestions and see exactly what would happen if we did make some of these modifications on Christina's hair. Sound like a plan? I think that's a plan. Let's do that right now then. Okay, mistake number one was all about the back, the length and the nape being just a little bit on the long side, and that was bringing that eye down the shape and kind of dragging her face and everything down. So if we actually brought that length up just a little bit, this is what that would look like. Now this is only a slight change in length, but you can see how it immediately brings the eye back up the shape and starts to accentuate cheekbones and her jawline from the profile. Now, this is one of those scenarios where just a little bit goes a long way to making a huge improvement. Okay, now mistake number two was all about the front being a little bit too styled forward and a bit uneven. So if we actually evened those up and actually brought this back off of her face just a little bit, this is what that would look like. Now, I'll show you the front when we get to the next mistake, but even from the profile, you can see that this really helps the length with lifting up her eye, and the shape goes a long way towards opening Christina up more. Okay, mistake number three was a little bit of a piggyback off of mistake number two, and that was that it was styled a little bit too into the face, but also that the overall shape was just a bit too flat, and it really wasn't doing anything to accentuate any of the great facial features that we could be accentuating with Christina. So if we actually brought that back off of her face just a little bit and added a little bit of volume, this is what that would look like. Now you can see the front, and really you get to see how much this both accentuates cheek structure, lifts the eye up, lifts the face up, and really overall is just a much stronger shape on Christina. This is where you get to see that even though we haven't changed the overall hairstyle all that much, very minorly actually, we've made a huge impact with the way it actually affects Christina's face shape. And that is why, to me, all of this stuff is so important. It's a bunch of little things that add up. I say it all the time. I'm not lying to you. Well, no, I'm not lying to you, I promise. Okay, mistake number four was just about the color. It was just a little bit too cool, in my opinion, for Christina's skin tone. So if we actually added a little bit of warmth to the color, this is what that would look like. Now, again, this is not a massive change. This is a slight change, but to me, this is kind of the icing on the cake, if you will. This is what brings all of this together. And this is why I love this kind of thing, because all of these small little changes come together to create this quite impressive change, in my opinion. But, you know, I'm always curious about your opinion, so we'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's talk about some curveballs. Now, when I got to the curveballs, I wanted to stay with a similar style, or basically the same style. I didn't really want to focus on changing that up too much because, to be completely honest, I really like this shape and style on Christina, and it's close enough to what she's currently doing that I think it would be a very feasible and simple change for her. And again, like I said before, still a very large impact. So what I did want to address is kind of playing a little bit around with the color. So my first curveball is this. Now here, we didn't change a whole lot. As you can see, all I did is add a little bit of depth to the roots and added a little bit of lowlights internally or within the shape to give it a little bit more dimension. Now I personally really like this because I think it gives the hair enough dimension and movement without being an entirely different color. I can't imagine that this would really be out of her wheelhouse or any sort of concern for her. So to me, this is a really solid option. Not a lot more maintenance than she's currently used to, but still, again, one of those small things that really kind of brings this all together. But my second curveball, now this you are either going to love or you're going to hate. And I'm positive and confident that you will let me know below which one that is. But I did want to change the color up a little bit just to see. And so what we did is, well, we did this. Yes, so obviously, as you can tell, this is quite a bit darker. We went dark all over, and I actually do think this adds a lot of richness to her skin tone. It's still a warmer dark color, so it's still working with her base tone, but I think that it's not too dark for her. So I don't know. I mean, as you know, I'm always curious to hear what you think about it, but I actually kind of like the dark. If I had to choose, I think I would probably go with the blonde. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I think I would. I think that might be where I land. But I think partly that is because I like the dimension that the blonde creates. Now, put that aside, this dark one really gives some richness if you ask me, and I think it'd be fun for her because it'd be such a big change. So, I don't know. What do you think? Tell me below. Let me know. You think she should go dark? Think she should go blonde? thinks she should cut her hair into a really tight little short pitsy mohawk cut. Let me know below what you think, and otherwise, yeah, that wraps this one up, but I will see you next week with a brand new video. All right, enjoy your week. I'll see you then.